Cringe alert, my most embarrassing moment revealed and why it was worth it. Picture this. Me, on my knees, mascara running down my face, begging my ex to take me back. And his response? You broke me. Yeah, that actually happened. And no, this isn't a scene from some low-budget romantic comedy. This was my real life, folks. But before you cringe too hard, let me tell you why that humiliating moment turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me. Trust me, this story has everything. Drama, comedy, and a slightly unhinged protagonist. That's me. I still get flushed thinking about it. The moment I begged my ex to give our relationship another chance. It was like I had been punched in the gut by heartbreak and was now desperately clinging to a stranger for a lifeline. Why, you ask? Well, let me tell you the story of how I went from being the coolest cat in town to the laughing stock. It all started on a fateful Saturday night when my ex, Alex, and I went to a country music bar. I was feeling carefree, dancing to Garth Brooks with my friends, and generally having the time of my life. But Alex stormed out of the bar, leaving me stunned and wondering what had gone wrong. Little did I know, my stupid apology, which I thought was going to save our relationship, would end up making things worse. A devastated me took off after Alex, shouting my apologies and reasons for his irritation. People started to stare. I mean, who begs their ex on a Saturday night? Not me, apparently. And I became the center of everyone's awkward attention. Alex, fueled by embarrassment, or so I thought, turned and told me, "You ruined me, you know that?" before walking away, right in front of a mesmerized crowd of beer-swaying onlookers. Need I say more about how mortifying that moment was? Looking at myself in the mirror a few days later, I was surprised I still had a nose left, considering how badly it had been pulverized by the force of embarrassment. Now, I'm often met with raised eyebrows when I recount that embarrassing night, but my response is always the same. I'm just proud that my desperation didn't kill me, psychologically at least. Why regret a memory that's got everyone giggling? If you have a good sense of humor and like laughing at others' misfortunes, yes, mine, then this story's for you. So grab some popcorn and let the judging begin. But all jokes aside, I learned a valuable lesson. Be careful what you ask for, because in that particular night, I got exactly that, an unforgettable experience and a whole lot of beer jokes. Quick backstory. I'm that person who used to think every romantic comedy was a documentary. Spoiler alert, they're not, and my life definitely proved that. I was basically the human equivalent of a Pinterest board labeled relationship goals, except everything was slightly off-center and probably on fire. Remember that ex I mentioned? Let's call him Mr. Perfect until he wasn't. We were together for 3 years, and I thought we had the kind of love they write songs about. You know, the kind where birds help you get dressed in the morning and woodland creatures coordinate your schedule. Turns out it was more like a comedy sketch, where the birds are actually pigeons, and they're just trying to steal your breakfast. It's funny how life works out sometimes. I mean, one minute you're swimming with the sharks, and the next, you're finding yourself clinging to a piece of wreckage in the middle of the ocean. That's me, by the way. That moment is usually the most memorable and the most awkward. So, let's talk about how I hit rock bottom. Try saying that out loud a few times. It was one of those days where everything seemed to be conspiring against me. I woke up certainly hungover and still hadn't mastered the art of making a bowl of cereal without spilling milk all over the floor. That's when I realized I was in way over my head. Fast forward to me begging my ex to give our relationship another chance, which we'll get to in a bit. Little did I know that decision would be the pivotal moment that led to my rock bottom rendezvous. What followed was an interesting process. Imagine mixing all your emotions into a blender, throwing in a few sleepless nights, and blending everything together. If you can picture that chaotic concoction, that's roughly what my mental state looked like during that period. And trust me, it wasn't pretty. I'm sure my face is still there somewhere in the wallpaper of my friend's living room. It all sounds quite dramatic now, but at the time, it was an actual why me kind of situation. However, looking back, something I couldn't do much of during this dark period, I can laugh at the sheer absurdity of it all. I did everything I shouldn't have. A classic checkmark for this relationship is a train wreck, ladies and gentlemen. from staying out late without the other person to actually taking care of myself. Sound like a new age relaxation album? Just go with it. I won't judge. As we dive into the ridiculous journey of my begging and pleading, the thought that keeps lingering at the back of my mind is, did I really have a chance to change things? Or was it simply an expertly crafted plan on his part to test how long I'd keep throwing good money after bad? One thing's for sure. As you'll find out later, he said I ruined him forever. Specifically, it was something like, "You used to be the best part of my week," which doesn't sound so bad, but let's get real, is probably, "You made me decide whether or not I had a social life." Time to transition into the main event, the actual conversation, a thrilling tale of sycophancy and late-night pep talks. Today's story is about how I went from being a completely rational human being to someone who thought begging their ex for another chance was a brilliant idea. And for those wondering, yes, I'm totally fine sharing this now, because nothing heals like time and the ability to laugh at yourself. Plus, my therapist says this is cheaper than another session. Win-win. As I sit here sipping on my coffee, which has now turned lukewarm because I got lost in memories, I couldn't help but think about my never-ending pursuit of true love. My life has been a roller coaster of epic failures, and I'm not even exaggerating. Let me share with you just a few of the many ridiculous moments that make up the epic saga of my failed romantic comedy life, the great breakup of 2018. It started with Brian, a charming, laid-back, and handsome individual. I mean, who wouldn't fall for that, right? We met at a coffee shop, and our connection was instant. We spent the entire first date talking about our passions and dreams, and before we knew it, the sun had set and the coffee shop was closing. It was like fate was trying to bring us together. Or, maybe we were just really into overpriced coffee. Fast forward to a year into our relationship, and we were doing great. Well, until I spontaneously decided to improve his favorite dessert recipe for Valentine's Day. Let's just say it didn't end well. He found out that my idea of sauces meant buying an entire aisle worth of random condiments and literally dousing the dessert in them. We had a bit of a disagreement, and well, the rest is history. After Brian and I went our separate ways, I vowed to never fall for those charming, laid-back types again. So, naturally, I found myself immediately drawn to Kai, the hot-headed and intense graphic designer with a penchant for existential crises. It was a whirlwind romance, filled with romantic dates, long conversations, and an endless stash of my famous infused candies. I mean, who needs actual feelings when you have beautifully crafted, hand-dipped chocolates infused with essential oils? However, things took a turn for the worse when I, mistakenly, thought it'd be a good idea to throw him a surprise party for his ex-girlfriend's birthday. Yeah, that didn't go over well. I won't go into the details, but let's just say it involved multiple shouting matches, damaged furniture, and me hiding under the bed for a solid hour. Post-Kai, I decided to try my hand at love with Nathaniel, a sweet, gentle soul who shared all my interests and was basically the male version of me, minus the questionable life choices. We spent hours together watching sci-fi movies, exploring quaint towns, and even attempting to cook sushi together. I'm still proud of the edible California rolls we managed to create. But as the saying goes, pride comes before a fall. And I fell hard. After one too many failed attempts to rebrand our living room as a stylish art studio, one too many frugal decorating ideas, and what can only be described as a Mona Lisa of a shelf made from an old window and a bunch of coffee cans, Nathaniel fled for his life, or, at the very least, left for a few hours to calm down. And so on. You see, it's these kinds of misadventures that make up the epic saga of my failed romantic comedy life. It's a tale of love, loss, desperation, and an unnerving addiction to buying takeout whenever possible. Looking back, there were more red flags than a Soviet parade. Like that time he said my collection of Friends memorabilia was slightly concerning. But my life-size cardboard cutout of Ross Geller was perfectly normal bedroom decor. The actual breakup happened at Starbucks. Yes, he broke my heart over a pumpkin spice latte. The barista wrote, "It's over" on my cup. Okay, that last part didn't happen, but wouldn't it be funnier if it did? Although, I did ugly cry into my drink so hard that another customer asked if I was allergic to cinnamon. I went through the 5 stages of breakup grief. Denial, stalking his Instagram, drunk texting, more stalking, and finally, the infamous begging incident of 2022. Let me tell you, nothing says I'm handling this well like commenting heart emojis on his photos from 2015. Picture the scene. Me, outside his apartment, holding a boombox playing all by myself because In Your Eyes felt too cliché. His neighbors recorded it. I'm probably on TikTok somewhere, filed under cringe moments or why is this woman serenading an apartment building. His exact words were, "You ruined me with your constant Disney movie expectations and your need to turn every moment into a potential viral tweet." First of all, rude. Second of all, okay, maybe he had a point. I did try to recreate the Notebook rain scene in our local park. The sprinklers weren't quite the same, and that poor jogger never saw it coming. To the man in the gray tracksuit, if you're watching this, I'm sorry about your phone. Turns out being ruined by someone just means you weren't right for each other. Like trying to force a Netflix subscription to work on a blockbuster mindset. He wanted someone who could just watch a movie without recreating every scene. I wanted someone who understood why staging a flash mob for our 6-month anniversary was completely reasonable. The best part? That dramatic begging scene became my go-to story at parties. Nothing breaks the ice like admitting you once serenaded your ex with Celine Dion at 2 a.m. The heart does go on, but my neighbor's patience definitely didn't. I have to admit, I'm still not sure what I was thinking, begging my ex to give our relationship another chance. But hey, hindsight is 20/20, right? I mean, who needs self-respect when you're head over heels in love, or not? As I sat on the floor, begging for scraps of my relationship to be thrown my way, I realized I had reached rock bottom. It was a very low moment. But in all seriousness, it was a turning point for me. I learned that sometimes the only thing standing between you and true happiness is a healthy dose of humor. Looking back, I can laugh at the absurdity of it all. I mean, who asks their ex to give them another chance because they ruined them forever? It's like trying to turn a demolition into a construction project. Just no. But on a more serious note, I learned that relationships are like comedy specials. Sometimes they bomb, and sometimes they kill. And just like in comedy, you can't always predict what's going to work and what's not. However, you can always try again, with a new perspective and a cleaner edit. In all honesty, I don't think my ex ever seriously considered giving our relationship another chance. I mean, I think he was just humoring me out of pity. But hey, a guy can dream, right? And even though that chapter of my life ultimately ended in disaster, I wouldn't change a thing. Well, maybe a few things, like, for example, not begging my ex to stay with me, or not wearing those ridiculous highlighter-shaded sweatpants during our arguments. On a more philosophical note, I've come to realize that hurting someone you love is like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. It's frustrating, confusing, and often ends in a drawer full of broken dreams. But just like in Puzzle Masters, sometimes you stumble upon a solution by accident, or in my case, intentionally, while in a romantic coma. Ultimately, my story is a cautionary tale about the importance of respecting boundaries, not sending careful worded Instagram messages, and wearing clean clothes during romantic get-togethers. If I'm being completely honest, I think there were a few too many cringe-worthy moments in our relationship, like that time I tried to impress him by reciting an entire Shakespearean sonnet on the spot. Yeah, that did not go well. But, in the end, hindsight is indeed 20/20. And when I look back on that time, I laugh and shake my head, thinking, well, kid, that's a great joke. So here's what I learned. Sometimes when someone says you ruined them, they really mean you showed them who they really are. And in my case, he was really someone who couldn't appreciate a good Celine Dion moment. His loss. Now my shower concerts are exclusively for my bathroom mirror and my YouTube subscribers. These days, I save my dramatic performances for these videos instead of my ex's front yard. Speaking of which, if you enjoyed watching me relive my most embarrassing moment, hit that subscribe button like I hit that emotional rock bottom, hard and memorably. Check out my video from last week where I talk about the time I tried to make my own Pinterest wedding board while we were still dating. Yeah, that might have been red flag number 47. Apparently, Planning our kids' names before the third date was moving too fast. Who knew? Don't forget to like and comment below with your most embarrassing relationship story. Make me feel better about mine. And remember, if you're currently living your own romantic comedy gone wrong, it gets better, or at least it gets funnier. And hey, if my ex is watching this, thanks for the content. My therapist says I'm not allowed to send you the bill, but my YouTube revenue should cover it.